All right, let's jump right in. The cloud has given us this incredible playground for innovation, right? A place where developers can spin up a hackathon project or test some wild new idea in just a few minutes. But, this freedom, it's got a dark side. So how do you encourage all that creative chaos without it spiraling into actual expensive and insecure chaos? That's the challenge we're going to unpack. It really all comes down to this one question. You've got a dozen teams, all of them running spikes and experiments. They're moving fast, building cool things. But what happens when those temporary projects, well, what if they're not so temporary after all? That's what happens. They start to creep into the shadows of your infrastructure. These little forgotten experiments begin to grow. And before you even know it, you have a really serious problem on your hands. We're talking about something called a shadow production system. And this definition, it really just nails the danger. A project becomes critical infrastructure, which means other systems, maybe even your customers, start depending on it. But here's the kicker. It has zero oversight, no security reviews, and absolutely no budget. It's this undocumented, insecure, and potentially wildly expensive part of your system that on paper doesn't even exist. That is a ticking time bomb. So the old way to deal with this was just to lock everything down, put up gates everywhere. But we all know that just kills innovation. The modern approach is a complete shift in mindset. We're moving away from gates, and we're moving toward guardrails. The difference here is fundamental. Gates are all about blocking progress. They're restrictive, and their default answer is always going to be no. Guardrails, on the other hand, are about guiding progress. They're enabling. They don't say no, they show you how to experiment safely. The whole point is to remove friction and actually speed your teams up. So how do we actually build these guardrails? Well, it's not nearly as complex as you might think. We can break it down into a pretty simple governance toolkit, starting with some foundational pieces that, honestly, anyone can put into place. At its core, it really just comes down to these three simple steps. First, you standardize how you name things. Second, you enforce a few critical tags on everything that gets created. And third, you put automated budget alerts in place. Let's dig into each one. Okay. Starting with naming. A resource named Test VM Final 2 tells you absolutely nothing. But a clear, machine-readable convention like you see here, it gives you instant context. Just by looking at the name, you know it's a project, you know its purpose, who owns it, and when they created it. This is your first line of defense against those mystery resources. Next up, tagging. Think of tags as non-negotiable metadata labels. If naming gives you context, tagging gives you control. By making tags like owner, cost center, and especially end-of-life date totally mandatory, you're laying the groundwork for all your automation. You can track costs, assign responsibility, and most importantly, you know exactly when an experiment is supposed to end. And here it is, the payoff, all in a single view. On the left, you've got a mystery server. Who owns it? What's it for? When can we delete it? Nobody has a clue. But on the right, you have perfect clarity. We know it's for the Q1 hackathon, it's owned by D. Smith, and it has a scheduled end of life of January 18th. One is total chaos, the other is total control. Okay, our third foundational guardrail is all about the money. I mean, we've all heard the horror stories, right? A developer spins up some super powerful GPU instance for a machine learning experiment, forgets about it over a long weekend, and comes back to a $30,000 bill. Budget alerts are what prevent that nightmare scenario from ever happening. The smartest way to do this is with a tiered system. When you hit 50% of the budget, the owner gets a friendly little notification. At 80%, that alert gets louder. Maybe it pings their manager. And at 100%, that's it. It's a hard stop. The resources are automatically shut down. This gives everyone visibility and stops runaway costs before they even start. So we've got naming, we've got tagging, and we've got budget alerts. And those are fantastic. But there's one more guardrail that is way more powerful than all the others combined. It's the one that truly stops experiments from becoming permanent fixtures. And this right here, this is the absolute game changer. Every single experimental resource must have an expiration date from the moment it's created. It's not some optional field, it is a requirement. This one simple rule changes everything because it makes cleanup an automated, expected part of the process, not some painful manual task that nobody wants to do. So this is what that lifecycle actually looks like in practice. Day 1, a developer creates a resource, sets that end-of-life tag for 1 week later. On day 5, they get an automated warning. Hey, your stuff is being deleted in 48 hours. If you need it, you better extend the tag. If they do nothing, on day 7, the system automatically takes a final snapshot, just in case, and then deletes the resources. It's clean, it's predictable, and it's fair. When you put all of these pieces together, you get something really, really powerful. You're not just preventing problems anymore. You're actively creating an environment where your teams can innovate with real confidence. And the benefits are huge. You'll see an immediate jump in how fast your teams can innovate because developers aren't afraid to experiment anymore. Costs are tightly controlled, your security risk plummets because you don't have forgotten, unpatched servers just lying around, and you build up way less technical debt. It's a win across the board. So really, the key takeaway here is that good governance isn't about restriction. It's about creating freedom. The freedom to try new things, to move fast, to build the future, all inside a safe and predictable framework that protects the whole organization from those unintended consequences. Ultimately, your cloud environment is a canvas for your team's creativity. These guardrails aren't walls to limit that creativity. They're the frame that protects the masterpiece you're all building together. So the real question is, how are you going to protect yours?